Welcome back to the Human Nexus podcast. My name is Andrew Brazis. I am a marketing and business consultant and a private chef.
Welcome back. My name is Miss Laura Machiste. I am an online tarot reader, holistic massage therapist, and energy coach. And in this episode, we are going to talk about karma, our own experiences with karma, good or bad, and or possibly if we've seen it somehow play out in front of us as well. So I definitely learned about karma, I feel like a little late in life. Like you hear the word, but like understanding it is kind of a little bit like deeper than that. And once I realized it was more of like you reap with you what you sow, what you do, you allow done to yourself was something that didn't make sense in the beginning until I like started the spiritual journey. I started to understand energy, the duality of life, like balance. Like nature has to find a balance.
Mhm.
So if there is too much of darkness, light has to come through. And also the other way around. Like if there's too much light, dark has to come in as well. So I remember when I kind of really didn't understand it, I was really big on like being mad that people like hurt me. So I would always say that whoever hurts me or lies to me or anything like that, like they'll get their karma. Like the universe doesn't play around with me. And I was just kind of like always affirming that to myself.
And how old were you when this was happening?
I think like 17. So like I really didn't know what I was doing or saying. I was just kind of like, if you hurt me, you're going to pay. I don't have to do
Mhm.
anything, but the energy will make sure that you get dealt with. And
Do you still believe that?
I'm tr- I'm trying to reword or not say it at all now
Mhm.
because in my experience of saying that, I think I might have said that for like 10 years. And it was always a little bit more towards guys because I was like always a little bit more annoyed at them than like anyone else. And so basically, I would say from like 2013 to 2024, most of the guys that I've said that towards, like, it's not always right after. Sometimes it's a little bit after. And like, this is why I stopped saying it because, like, once the last thing I heard about from someone, I was like, wait, no, I have to stop saying this like that. Motorcycle accidents, car accidents, like broken bones. And almost in like a weirdly synchronized way where like this one guy really did me dirty and like a month later car accident, had to get a whole new car, went into debt, all this stuff later. And then another person, and it always has to do with some type of like transportation position as well, which is
Interesting.
like also kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Except for the one person, really crazy. I was mad that this guy kept choosing to go out to clubs instead of like prioritizing me. He was at a club and he fell down the stairs and broke his elbow.
And
So
and
I was like, I
so
gotta stop. I gotta stop.
so you maybe energetically, yeah.
But now if nature has to find a balance for everything, what do you think happened to me? I
Mhm.
went through 6 different cars.
Mhm.
I had my fair share of like heartbreak continuously, like
Mhm.
whether I was in the position of doing it, because I almost feel like it hurts rejecting someone. So I don't always feel like it was like my heart broken. I always felt like maybe broken, like rejecting another person. And then
Mhm.
that's where like the understanding of karma was still up in the air for me and kind of still is. It's like, well, if I decided to do something for like the sake of my own peace or the protection of my own peace, is that meaning that I'm welcoming that in from other people as well? Like, will they do that to me to protect their own peace? I guess.
Yeah. Right. Do you have any uh do you have any regrets, I guess? Like let's say Guy does something. Let's use the club guy because that's what I have right now. And he goes to the club, falls on the stairs. You find out. Do you immediately feel regret, like about?
So in the beginning, when I was a little bit unevolved, I'd be like, good, you deserved
Yeah.
it. That's what you get.
Mhm.
But now that like I'm more mature and evolved, now I'm like, oh my God, no, like I don't want me putting anything out there that's gonna make somebody like go through like a catastrophic event. Like I just like
Mhm.
don't want to like be that person. And that's where I kind of was got also into like the connection to watching what you say. It wasn't
Mhm.
only towards manifestation, it was also towards like you reap what you sow and karma.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I asked because the mentor, the witch lady that I mentored with,
Hmm.
she talked about karma in the sense of like, let's say you're putting a bad spell on somebody, and if you don't have the regret attached to that, you essentially have clear karma. I don't know if that's true. I mean, she
Ah.
practiced various forms of like black and gray magic her,
Hmm.
the majority of her life. And so
Right.
I trust that,
Hmm.
but also I don't know, like I don't have any instances that come to mind to where I'm like, oh man, I really hope that you just get what's coming to you. And then like seeing
Hmm.
it happen or like hearing
Right.
about it happen or something like that. However, I did grow up in a very, I would say, underprivileged youth, childhood household or whatever. And I did a lot of hood rat shit. And in that, me or my friends would constantly be getting in trouble with like the police or like local, I don't know, authority, maybe not police, but people at the school, and so
Hmm.
that was kind of like all the bad shit that we were doing. We were definitely reaping that in like physical or like punishment,
Mm.
like legal or whatever it is. And
Right.
so I don't know where the line is for me, where like the bad karma manifests itself into like a physical reality. And the same thing for good karma. Do you have
Right.
any like good karma stories? Just you personally?
So I try to spread out my good karma every day. Like I
Mhm.
specifically make it a point to like do a good deed or give
Interesting.
the rest of my change to the tip jar, even if it's like a $10 bill and there's only
Mhm.
ones in there. So I try to make it a point to be aware and spread out the good karma. So I feel like, once again, also with bad karma, sometimes it's not going to manifest in the same area of your life that it happened. Like
Sure.
you might be shitty at work and your karma plays out in your love life, you
Mhm.
know? You
Yeah.
might be shitty to your lover and then you lose your job. So I feel like since, everything is connected to a
Mhm.
degree, I feel like those types of things are really beneficial to be aware of. And I used to say this a lot in readings too. Like, it is very rare that you get to see karma play out in someone else's life that, like, did you wrong. Like, either like the separation has been separated. Who's going to post about stuff like that unless they're like kind of like sympathy or maybe like actual catastrophic event? Maybe they have like a GoFundMe going on, like things like that. But I feel like I try my best now to like be good, not hurt anybody. I used to be like a little bit more stern and like harsh with the way I would present myself, like a little bit more stone colder. So like I taught myself how to be a little bit more um what's the word? I guess like warmer to people.
Mhm. Yeah.
So once again, actually, do you now that I'm thinking about it, the law of attraction.
Mhm.
I feel like doesn't that go hand in hand with karma? Because I think about it and like I was a little bit more of like a bitchier person in
Mhm.
my early years, and I had a lot of bitchy people around me. Was that
Yeah.
my karma for being bitchy?
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Or
that
was
would,
me attracting that?
yeah, I would say they go hand in hand,
Right.
probably. But like you
All right, new
have
topic. No, I'm kidding.
you have I mean the way that I see it is we have like all these levels and there's like your individual karma,
Hmm.
which is kind of like manifesting in a sense, whether you're doing it all the time knowingly or unknowingly. And
Hmm.
if you're, in a bad situation, what's that phrase that misery loves company? You're like
Yeah,
attracting,
right,
the people who want the same miserable life or actions that you want or you're living out. I don't know, like I don't even know if that would be karma.
right. I
Because
know.
if
That's
you,
why I'm like, hmm.
yeah, it was if you think of if I think of karma, I don't think of like immediate actions. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I think of it more as like, okay, well, maybe in a past life I was a terrible person, and then this life really sucked, and that's why. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not saying that it does. I'm just, yeah. But the karma of like actions today, what if like this life doesn't matter in the sense of like you could be a murderer
Hmm.
and have like I think of like P. Diddy, like that
Oh
whole
my
thing.
gosh. But
That's
there he's
that's
getting
go.
his karma
Yeah. So
now.
like, what is that? Is that
Hmm.
karma? And like, if
Or did he
so,
attract that with
well,
his
you know, it's
choices?
yeah, and it's probably a little bit of both if they both
Right.
exist. Um,
Exactly.
but what's interesting is this last like eclipse.
Hmm.
I believe it was like the last year and a half cycle's ending
Right.
this month.
Hmm.
And so it's like, okay, well, maybe it's similar to astrology to where whatever your signs are, your karma for that specific, I don't know, house in your astrological chart is fixed
Right.
on those cycles. Is that making sense?
Yeah, and you know what's even more interesting that you brought up the eclipse season is that the year and a half eclipse axis was in Aries and Libra.
Hmm.
So Aries is the action you take,
Hmm.
Libra is law and order and balance. So of course it would make sense that people would get exposed around this time that weren't karmically or like doing the right thing morally. Like if
Hmm.
anything, a Libra event is going to make that happen because they ruled law and order, justice, the court system, and stuff like that. So, yeah, that I feel like that might somehow be connected to where it was building up. And I
Hmm.
think all of that happened in the spring eclipse, right? And now more it's taking ahead now in the fall
Yeah.
time. So, yeah, that's why I just try to just be as good as possible and not mess around with that, especially once I got into numerology, my life path number. I'm a
Hmm.
life path number 4, and fours rule law and order. So I also am born on the 13th, which 3 plus 1 also equals 4. So
It's
I
so strange.
try to not bend the law at all because, like the duality of life, either a 4 is going to get it faster and,
Hmm.
like, okay, you're not doing the right thing. Woot, woot, we're pulling you over. Or the 4 is going to find the benefit where they might get out of a speeding ticket or something like that. But once again, karma, duality of life. So it kind of like all depends, I guess, on how lucky you get in that moment.
Yeah. And that too is like, it's so strange how it's so connected. Like that makes sense. How does the numerology, or I guess, does the numerology play into karma at all outside of like what you just described?
So numerology kind of gives a like number sequence, like messenger type of energy to
Hmm.
where when you know your life path, there are just certain things that they just tell you not to do or to tell you to do more. And I
Hmm.
feel like that might just depend on what the life path number is and what the traits and qualities and like what it is for that. And of course, I'm going to know the most about mine because that's the one
Hmm.
I looked up the most. But that's actually a pretty good question. Like I know twos, um, obviously because it's a multiplication of four. I looked into twos. Twos have to be very specific on the choices they make in their life, like free willingly. And like a choice can really bring them down the wrong path or the right path. And I feel like obviously that's for everybody, but maybe
Yeah.
depending on what your like number is in life. But I only know really more about the fours.
Yeah. And I think I'm an 11. Is that we did this
Yes.
early on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything. Well, what you shared with me was like spot on, but I couldn't,
Hmm.
I don't remember what it was. Um,
Yeah.
do you believe that your, I don't, do you believe that your karma at the end of your life will be some like big review, big event? That's kind of like the Christian belief with like sins and stuff
Mm,
like that.
right. So I feel like you definitely have that. Your whole life flashes, like you
Hmm.
go through all the experiences. But I like to believe that like they're the good ones. I like to
Hmm.
believe that like the subconscious just like overflows you with like the good ones.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because they do say that like, well, whatever you believe in, that when you pass on, like all of those things are let go of. Like there is that forgiveness, there is that peace, there is that healing. So I kind of feel like in that transitional moment, why would they give the negative ones if that's not what is meant to be brought to that side? Like, I
Hmm.
don't really know, you know?
Yeah.
But whenever I watch like mediumships or any type of thing where they're talking to the other side, they always say, like, this person's not holding on to anything anymore. Like, that's what happens when you transition. Like, you're just in the energy of love and this, that, and the other. Like, they remember the experiences because sometimes mediums use that and they'll
Hmm.
tell, like, oh, Andrew, like, this person is telling me about like a really horrible moment that you two shared together, but they're like telling me so you make it contact that this is them. And maybe that like stood out for you or something. So, I'm not necessarily sure on that, which is actually so funny because that was one of my dad's like favorite things to say when people died. He'd be like, "Well, now they know what we don't." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Okay, you're saying that in like a weird envious way, but I'll
Yeah.
just okay."
Yeah.
What do you think on
Um,
that?
I'm not really sure. I don't know. I'm a big believer that we create our reality now and then post death.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily know if karma on the individual level is that big of a deal. Like,
Hmm.
I think subconsciously as a human, if you
Right.
do bad things, most people are naturally wired to be guilty about it.
Hmm.
And I think that's like a natural human response.
Right.
But also, I don't think that if I was like nice to the little old lady outside, like helped her across the street, I don't think that's gonna like get me some special like karmic boost.
Oh, see, I believe that it would.
Yeah.
I feel like the most simple acts of like
Mhm.
good karma and good deed like set you up for things. Like actually, for example, I used to give these little pop open things that like had a
Mhm.
quote inside of it, and I would write like Miss Machiste on the back. So I would throw them around places.
Mhm.
Wherever I would go, I'd leave them in my purse. If I was in New York City, I'd leave some on the bench just for like another person to find it and like feel like happy or something like that.
Mhm.
And I did that for a while, and a experience happened to me where somebody gave me something,
Mhm.
and in what they gave me was one of those pop opens. It wasn't the one that was mine,
Yeah,
but
that'd be so weird.
it was a gift
Yeah.
from them. And it just so happens that in the way they, I guess, packaged it, they had like a similar idea. Like, let's give them
Mhm.
the pop opens. Oh, it looks like this. I don't know if you could see it on here. Okay, sort
Nope.
of. Like it pops
Oh
open
yeah, yeah,
with like a little
yeah. Well,
thing.
it's kind of hard to see, but
This is actually the one that I got. And it
mhm.
says like thank you on the back because it's like not from me. So that kind of was like, oh, okay, like I actually physically saw the return of it back to me, although it wasn't mine that said Miss Machiste on it, but it was a free gift. This person just like walked over and they were like, here, I want you to have this. And I was like, oh, little pop opens, these ones I used to place all over the place.
Yeah, I do think the intention's important. So
Yeah.
like if I walk an old lady across the street, if I'm doing it to like be nice,
Hmm.
and I think that could get like I think that has positive benefits energetically.
Right.
But I think if I'm just doing it to be like, oh man, I can't wait for my
Hmm.
good karma. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think the intention is important. Um, Not
Yeah,
that I
absolutely.
don't do those things, but um, at the greater level, so like we have the individual karma level, maybe,
Hmm.
and then like we definitely have it collectively. Like I think, not to go back to the P. Diddy thing, but it was just interesting to see how that came up around the time of the eclipse season and like, what was it, Libra?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna see the fall of Hollywood in the next like don't quote me, but we should write this down. I want to say, what are we, 2024? I want to say within at least the next 5 years, we'll see the fall of Hollywood and the rise of influencers, like the rise of
I think it's
content
like
creators.
already happening.
Yeah.
We're
I think it's
like
going to hit really hard. I think more things are going to come out.
what was it last week? 2 weeks
Hmm.
ago, Elon Musk did his whole like robot thing.
No,
Did you?
yeah.
Yeah, which was just the timing is just bizarre.
Hmm.
And like I know this is about karma, and these aren't necessarily about karma, but like it's to me, karma's the cycles that we're like all dealing with, and it's just one of those
Right.
cycles.
Like,
Um,
I feel like our karma in America is the way our food is made now. I
God,
feel like
so bad.
we
That's so,
made it seem right. We made it seem like we were
Mhm.
the best country in the world, this, that, and the other. But guess what? All the other countries in the world, their food is
Yeah,
not trying to kill them. So
yeah.
I
Our
feel
food
like
is
that's a big
garbage.
part of America's karma,
Yeah,
and like
that's
us
very
thinking
true.
we're like more important when that's not the
Mhm.
case.
Yeah, and also like our I think our debt's probably the worst. It's top
Mhm.
three.
The
Um,
pollution we put out there, I'm sure is
mhm.
probably just as bad.
Yeah. So that would be like, yeah, our national karma is very, very bad.
Hmm. I never really thought about it that way either. But then when you brought it up, I'm like, yeah, that would make a whole lot of sense because there is just so much more like caution and
Mhm.
like what we're ingesting in this country now. I actually just discovered, my sister discovered this like elderberry rose lemonade, and it was
Mhm.
really, really good. So I was like, oh, I'm going to buy more. And I bought a can of it and I turned it around and it was manufactured in the UK. And usually something that's sparkling or carbonated would make
Mhm.
me feel like it's just stuck, like right
Mhm.
here, or like it's like not going down. This stuff went through me. I didn't feel any type of like indigestion or any type of like, oh, I know I just drank something carbonated. And I was just like, wow, like this is literally crazy. I feel like that is our like, we were trying to sell the American dream so hard for so long. And now you want to come over here and go ahead and now you have to have your own garden, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you at least have to read the labels on
Right.
things for
It's either
sure.
doing that or become a gardener.
Yeah. And then what about the like collective karma? Like I think
Mm.
about like generations. Like for example, like World War II and like
Hmm.
I don't know, Germany and the Nazis. Like there
Right.
is no way that if karma's a real thing, that didn't leave some sort of like energetic footprint or the stuff going on now, like over in the
Hmm.
Middle East. It's just how does that not play into some bigger, I don't know,
Right.
karmic path?
I hope we're not alive to see that part.
Yeah.
I hope that's like the further generations issue, honestly. And that's
Yeah.
another thing why I'm iffy with having children,
Mhm.
because from, I mean, I guess, I wasn't an adult in 1980, so I don't really know how they
Mhm.
experienced it, but it's like the school shootings.
Mhm.
Why do I want to have a kid and bring them to school? Like, my sister's a teacher. Even for that, like, I get nervous her going there, like
Yeah.
those types of things. Like, I feel like the anxiety collectively is part of our karma. Like, everyone's anxious now. People
Yeah.
that weren't anxious before are like,
Mhm.
I don't know where this came from. I was never like this my whole life. So I feel like anxiety is like a big, big issue. I feel like everywhere now.
Yeah. And
Or
definitely
maybe it's
more
just talked
so.
about more.
Well, I
Sorry.
think more so like post COVID. I think COVID really collectively made people anxious
See,
and
that's
like,
like Earth karma,
yeah.
right?
And like,
Because that happened
how,
everywhere.
yeah.
Or was it just us?
No, no, it was everywhere.
It was everywhere. Okay. Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot.
And like, how do we measure these things? Like karma, unfortunately, you can't
Right.
measure karma,
Hmm.
but if you could, you would probably want to do it on, like the individual level.
Hmm.
The, I would say like state level or like nationally. And then like there's also I don't remember where I read this at, but like beliefs in like racial karma, which is really
Hmm.
interesting. Not getting into that. There is also like geographic karma,
Like
just like
where you live.
yeah, like for example, I grew up in a town in northern Indiana, and it
Hmm.
was inhabited by Native Americans, and
Mm.
they were completely all like wiped away. And the high school is built near one of the cemeteries. That was like one of their main burial grounds.
Hmm.
Um, and there's always this like really strange stuff that happens in that area. Um, so much so that the mentor that I worked with, we connected on this, and I don't know if this is true or not, but she said that she was asked to like go through the school or the building to,
Mm.
I don't know, like kind of like clean it out, clear it out like energetically.
Right.
And she said that she got onto the grounds and was like, No,
Oh
I'm
shoot.
not. I'm not going through there. Like, there's no way I'm doing that, which is
Really?
like
Wow.
intense.
And you
Yeah.
went to high school there?
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Did anything like weird happen to you where you were like, this is weird?
I mean, yeah, but I lived like a block away.
Oh.
So like I had a lot of weird stuff happen like just
Hmm.
in my home and like in the vicinity.
Right.
Um, but I don't know, like for example, like the weirdest thing was I had a suicide attempt. It
Hmm.
was like 2011 or 2012, something like that. And that winter, that month that happened, the high school had somebody commit suicide. And then I want to say I say multiple, but I think there was like two or three, like in the span of a month,
Wow.
around the same time that it happened to me. And I was like out of school then, so completely disconnected. But it
Hmm.
was just like in the air.
Right.
I don't know how else to explain it,
Wow.
which is really strange.
Yeah, that is really crazy. Yeah, I feel like, what's interesting that you bring that up as well. And I actually do have some subscribers that are from where the hurricanes are. I know, I meant
Mhm.
from Florida, and I
Mhm.
actually like we're reading some of their comments on like one of the most recent readings, and I went down a whole rabbit hole when they were preparing for Milton, and the
Mhm.
Floridians of Tampa were specifically talking about how they feel like in the last like 100 years, the Native American burial grounds have been saving them from hurricane. But
Interesting.
according to the people who live there, they said that within the last like either a couple months or a year, someone like dug up one of the whatever they're called,
Mm,
caskets. I don't know what they buried them in. Honestly, someone dug something up, took it
mm,
out, and then they put it back, and they whatever. So when the people of Tampa, and now this is, mind you, this is like one or two people's, three people's stories. You know, like I don't know if everyone from
yeah.
Tampa believes this or from Florida believes this, but this a couple of ladies were saying that, or and even some men, they were saying that they feel like it is rare that they would be so front and center in the news for it because they usually feel protected and they feel even more freaked out, and they felt like there was like an eerie feeling in the air that like they disturbed something that shouldn't have been disturbed, and this, that, and the other, like praying and so happy that like a lot of people are safe, especially the subscribers I have from there that like confirmed and that they're okay. But I just thought that was so interesting that
Yeah.
they went towards that. And like even the Floridians, they were going to the burial site and making offerings when they heard about the hurricane, like for like help, like protect us.
Hmm.
And I just thought that was like really, really interesting. So I was like, wow, okay. Like it's not only here. I'm in New Jersey. You're in Indiana. That's
Hmm.
Florida, like to a bunch of different areas. People are like waking up to what the settlers did, basically, like, and
Yeah.
realizing, like, oh shit, like we're on grounds where they invaded, basically,
Hmm.
you know? So all of those spirits. Yeah. Dang. Now you got me thinking about all these things. I'm like, oh my God, what is
Yeah.
my
And
house built on?
I think too, like the I does that make it karma? Like where, so
Right.
this is where my brain gets stuck on. So we have karma in one camp, right? And then we
Hmm.
have manifestation. Manifestation would be, in essence, manipulating karma.
Right. Or
So
attempting
like
to.
attempting to.
Yeah.
So like I say I'm stuck here because it's like either we have control of like consciously what's going on energetically,
Hmm.
or we don't. Like
Right.
I don't know what the in between looks like in that sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not really certain either. And I feel like, like there's still those things that are just going to be a mystery to us,
Hmm.
no matter how long we're here, unless like we want to give it an answer that makes us feel comfortable, then
Right.
that's still like
Yeah.
everyone's perception of just like how everyone experiences thing differently. You could have 20 people in the same room experiencing the same thing in front of them, and each of them will explain it differently. My dad also used to say that as well. He's like, it's not about the story, it's about who's telling the story.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Well,
very true.
that's history for you.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like
That's
that
so
goes like
true.
really hand in hand with all of that stuff and like what's believed and what's not believed.
Hmm.
I like to have something to believe in, so it just gives like that like feeling of comfort of like, well, you did a good deed, or
Hmm.
another thing too, like with like lending things to people, like do you ever feel like there is that imbalance when there is something lent to another person?
Mm. Yeah, I would say it's an exchange of energy.
Right.
So like if you give somebody something, expecting something in return, you don't get it, then I would say, yeah, that would be a complete imbalance.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So in my view of like
Mm,
lending something to someone, or say when someone's like, oh my gosh, can I really borrow $20? Like if it's something that's gonna be like that, I'm like, look, take the $20. That's it. Like don't
don't
consider it
worry
as a
about it.
borrow
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of feel like that also weirdly goes hand in hand with karma when people do give someone something expecting it to come back and then they don't
Hmm.
get it back, and then they're like, all right, well, that person's going to get their karma for never giving back my book. Like it
Hmm.
happens in so many different weird ways. Or, like, for example, like, what if somebody does lend you $500 and you were supposed to pay it back, but it's 5 years later, you don't have that $500? Are you now karmically set up to lose money because of that? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, it's so broad in
Yeah.
life of like
And
thinking
there
about it in all these different ways.
and there's also like with that thought, there's also these like guided meditations that like walk you through like
Hmm.
disconnecting all those like bad karmic ties, which is really
Right.
interesting that there's like a whole field of people who are like,
Hmm.
hey, do this to get rid of that bad karma, which is really interesting.
Right.
I think it's fascinating.
Well, now that you said that as well, like they do bring up a lot. There's actually a couple of cards I have that actually like say it. Like
Hmm.
karmic partners.
Hmm.
I
Which isn't
feel,
always a good thing.
yeah, no, it's usually not.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like, and that actually did happen to me once.
Mhm.
I dated somebody, and like the person who like just dated him was still like around and still there. But like I didn't believe her. I believed him. I was like, well,
Mhm.
I'm literally in front of your face. So like I don't know, like this doesn't make sense to me. And eventually I realized like, okay, wait, no, this girl is not crazy. She's got some truth to her. And
Mhm.
then whatever, it ended up like not like going further, but my next relationship was exactly like theirs. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes. So I felt like me in, I didn't mean to invade, like it was just like I didn't know. I was just like, "Oh, okay. There's interest, whatever." And then it was kind of like I think we add each other on Instagram. She was like stalking his like followers, and then she messaged me and she was like, "Oh, you must have just met him at the bar. Like he has a girlfriend and it's me." And then like he was there with all his friends and it was like, "No, no, no, that's a crazy girl. That's the crazy girl." And I believed it until time moved on and I was like, "Okay, wait, she's not that crazy because
Dang.
of certain things." And then boom, I was in a relationship just like theirs.
That is pretty wild.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And so you are you saying that you like energetically picked up like their energy, or
I
are you
don't
saying,
know. So, like, was that my karma for not believing her,
oh, I
becoming in
see.
her place? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I basically felt like her when I was dating the next person after that. Like, it's
Mhm.
almost like I felt like because I didn't believe her when she first said something to me, that like I got my karma by being in a similar relationship that they were in, like that, like not showing the person to the public, but then
Was that
being
your
with them.
mindset during the time? Like, do you remember?
No, I that was like halfway through the second relationship. I was like, why does this feel so familiar, but I don't feel like I'm playing the same role that I played the last time. Now I feel
Mhm.
like I am in the crazy girl looking role, that she
Mhm.
looked like to everybody else.
Yeah.
So I feel like somehow, some way that was somewhat karmic and like the universe was kind of like, well, that's what you get.
Mhm.
And it was just too similar. It was
Yeah.
just way too similar. Almost to the point of the fact of like there was a point in time where I did reach out to someone,
Mhm.
like almost like the same things happened too. So I was just like, is this my karma for not believing this girl when she first said something to me? Because now I'm her.
Mhm.
It was really weird.
That is really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still like stuck on if if we have negative things happening to us and
Hmm.
we so deeply believe in karma, and are we like dwelling on those things and manifesting these like negative karmic lifestyles?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Hmm. where you're like super walking on eggshells with life because you're like, well,
Hmm.
don't want to spin the wheel in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just try to be and just be more aware of like my own self-sabotaging ways, like towards myself
Hmm.
and other people. And as long as I'm like going through life, like not intentionally hurting anybody, I'm like, hey, look, if something shitty happens to me, then I guess it's happening for a reason. Like just my car situation of not having my car for so long. I actually like told the Leos a story about that where I said it like made me realize like how much I wasn't using it when I didn't have the ability to use it. And actually somebody commented on the channel and they're like, yeah, either like they live in California, they live where a beach is. She's
Hmm.
like, yeah, when you live around here, you don't go to the beach that much, but once you move, you really, really, really miss it and you wish that you were there. So I kind of feel like that goes like hand in hand with just like appreciating the things you have in front of you. And like, was my car not working karma for me? I don't know. I feel like it was more like trying to show me something. But if I wasn't this aware, I might have thought like, what bad karma did I get? Why is my car not working? Like this, that, and the other. So I
Well,
don't
that
know. I
goes
feel
back to
like,
like karma and relationships.
mm-hmm,
Like you can have karmic relationships that teach you something amazing.
right,
Like you had a karmic relationship with your car that taught you something. I don't know if it was amazing, but it
right.
was good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
They're
how do
usually with
you,
attachments too,
yeah. Well,
like the people and the cars and like stuff
yeah,
like
I'll
that.
say, well, yeah, you're attached. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying you are attached to your car, but
Well, I didn't realize how much I was until it
yeah.
wasn't here. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, hold on.
Oops.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have like a really good karma story that you can share? Because I feel like we've been hammering the bad karma maybe a little bit.
um, you see, this is another thing too with life. You remember the bad stuff more.
Hmm. That's
The
true.
good things don't like to come through that easily, which is also like another telling thing about humans and the way we view our lives and what we absorb and what we don't absorb. Um, I feel like good things happen to me so often that like they're not really that like prominent as much anymore. Like when I was
Hmm.
miserable, the good things that were so in front of my
Yeah.
face because I was so
Yeah.
upset about life. But now
Yeah.
that like my vibe is higher and my frequency is higher, I feel like the good things aren't as magnified anymore. The bad things get a little bit more magnified because I'm in more of the joyous state. So I try not to
Hmm.
like let it drop me so low. But a good karma. Honestly, I'm big on like spreading my energy out.
Hmm.
Um, so like when I was in massage school, I had a bunch of gold $100 bills. Those are my good karma spreading energies, which I'm still working on your package. I have a bunch of
Okay.
different things to put in there.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's
fun.
like one specific thing that I'm waiting to see if the store over here is going to grab it or like have it. And I go back there next week. But anyways, um, so I like to, if I know I'm going to do something with someone who maybe, like my dad was very big on like giving out money.
Hmm.
So for Halloween, we were in a candy house. We were a dollar bill house.
That's some damn
So
good karma.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad would go to the bank and get out like $1,000 in ones or
Mhm.
whatever. He would sit outside with a bowl of candy, but he was probably eating it more than he was giving it away.
Mhm.
And the kids would come up and he would just hand them money. And he really taught me like not to have an attachment to money. So
Mhm.
when I'm in experiences where like I really want to do something, I want someone to be there with me. Maybe they don't have it right now. I'm one of those people that like I got it. Like it's fine. Like I just want to
Hmm.
like have you with me for the experience. Like I don't want to do something alone or like things along those lines. So I feel like I've gotten a lot of good money karma.
Yeah.
And I feel like it, just how you were saying before, like maybe we have karma that was passed down from our ancestors and stuff like that. So possibly like me learning that like from my dad and like being that type of person and saying like, okay, like I can't bring this with me when I transition on. So like why do I feel the need to hold on to it so much? And like just like live out the experiences in life and like assist people and like those types of things as well. And I remember like there was like a couple of times where like maybe I paid for people or like something like that. And maybe in like a different way, I maybe like had a viral video that I got like a little bit more money from,
Hmm.
or got a like a bigger scheduling client where they got more than just like an hour massage, but they got like a whole bunch of stuff with it. So I definitely feel like in the physicality of our probably biggest scarcity position, I try to be like as giving as possible with that. And I've seen a lot of like abundance come back in for me, but I know like I limit myself. Like I know there's like another threshold of abundance that I could reach with just like being more authentic in who I am to strangers per se.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm spiritual. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, then
Yeah.
you could just turn around and keep on walking. So I actually feel like my authenticity that I've been like living in more lately has also been bringing in good karma with the people I've been aligning with.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah, I feel like it's in like both of those ways, but there isn't like something like specific. Oh, actually, I do have one.
Hmm.
And it's like really short and actually has to do with money as well.
Hmm.
So, there was someone that I had scheduled, and they had like a really long scheduling on my book. Like I was going to be with them for like 2.5 hours, and maybe I was only there for like 4 hours. So you took up basically like more than half of my time that day. And they ended up being sick in the hospital, and they called me and they're like, oh my God, like I'm so sorry I can't make it in, like blah, 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 blah. And that would have been me charging them like a no show fee. And like when you're in the beginning of a business, you give grace a lot of the times.
Yeah. Hmm.
And instead of that making me feel like so like, oh great, like now what am I supposed to do for 2.5 hours? And then there goes the half of my days of money that I would have made. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better. If you need to reschedule like for the future, go ahead. I'll cancel it. I'll make sure it doesn't charge you. And they were just like so grateful. And probably because they were at the hospital and like who knows what your medical bill is going to be.
Right.
That night, someone bought like a $300 gift card.
Wow.
And that would have been like what that person would have maybe paid in a
Yeah.
sense, maybe like 200 or something, but it gave me more.
Hmm.
So was that gift card going to be bought no matter what? I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's
But
hard
I
to
like
say.
to believe that it was good karma for me
Hmm.
giving grace to that person. And then they actually ended up coming in. And then future, they like referred like 3 different people to me. So it was like nice. But if I would have been that like in that scarcity mindset and then that like, no, 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 respect me, this, that, and the other, which like I could be, but I get it if you don't have any other source of money. But
Hmm.
I'm not going to be greedy. I could just go home and record for a half an hour and then go back. So like I was trying to like really get my belief system and being like, look, if this was the only thing you did, yeah, you're disrespecting yourself. Charge the no-show fee. But I was
Hmm.
like, this doesn't go with what I go with. So I let it go and then it like came back like tenfold. So I
Yeah.
like to think that was good karma, but could have just been it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if you're trusting yourself, essentially like trusting the universe,
Right.
it comes back to you. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's huge.
So that's what we got on karma.
And next episode, it's going to be Halloween themed. So we're going
Yes.
ghosts, ghouls, maybe scary stories. You got any?
Ghost Googles, goblins, all things like Halloweeny. Probably talk about
Mm-hmm.
like the veil. When you
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's like thinner over to where like you can feel like them around you more. Probably a whole bunch of stuff about like spirits, maybe even like
Yeah, I've got some seance stories to share for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
some of those. Probably some like witchy things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like practice that, but like my sister does. So I can give a little indications of like things that she's done as well as just all things. But yeah, so next episode, all Halloween vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got here for y'all
Good.
today. Thank you for being here for watching. Yes, let us know if you have any of your karma stories. And also head to our website, thehumannexus.org, if you would like to request to be on the show. We're going to start reaching out to some of the guests that have already inputted some stuff in and hopefully get you guys on within the next month or so.
See you guys.
See ya. Have a good one. Bye.